exactly have you done? What has your plan been? Okay? Right now, the most important thing to remember is we need to understand our objectives. You need to define a goal. Everyone needs to do this. Okay? You hear buzzwords like asset allocation, diversification. What we need to do is focus on the long term. You need to define these goals by focusing on the long term. Okay? You need to establish a game plan. Now, at UBS, we are just about the most extensive in terms of the capabilities we have, in terms of the research we have, in terms of the resources we have available to us. Today, what we're going to focus on is one area which I think encompasses what a lot of our needs are today, and that is estate planning. We are by far the only firm on Wall Street, or any street for that matter, which has what's called an attorney network. Now, what this network does is it actually screens define the most capable, the most specialized, most experienced attorneys all over the country which specialize in the field of estate planning. Okay? Today, we're actually fortunate enough to have the gentleman which is the forefront at this attorney network. He's the one that created the network about 10 years ago, and he is the head of the attorney network. He's manager, he runs his own firm, Steve Shanker and Hochberg. What I'm going to do is Steve Shanker is going to present to us and educate us on some of the new tax laws, a little bit about estate planning. I think this is something where these are some of the needs that we all need to address today, and he's going to educate us on
What
that.
has happened to estate taxes? How it's going to affect all of us? The only people in this room, by the way, who are not going to be affected are those of us who are immortal. So by a show of hands, how many are immortal? Okay, we all have estate planning to worry about. I'm going to kind of take a lead from Cal, and I'm going to run a little contest as Cal did. The only thing is I have no prize to give out, other than the pleasure of knowing you answered the question correctly. I've been told that some people believe that the phrase legal ethics is an oxymoron. Let me suggest to you it is not. There are ethics in the legal profession, and this is a test that appeared in a bar examination, the exam that all lawyers must take in order to be admitted to practice in whatever state they're located in. Now, I'd like to set the stage for you if I can. Imagine, if you would, an attorney sitting in his office behind his desk, and across the desk from him is a prospective client. They had never met before, and it appears this prospective client believes he had been the victim of an egregious act at the hands of a third party. And he was consulting the attorney because he wanted to seek retribution. Put another way, he wanted to sue this third party. So the attorney, of course, has in front of him the proverbial yellow legal pad. And the attorney takes copious notes as the client tells his tale of woe. And the client goes on for about 10 or 15 minutes, at the conclusion of which the attorney has several rather pointed questions that he needed answers to before he could formulate a legal opinion. So he asked the questions, received the answers, took some more notes, and finally at the conclusion, the attorney looked at the client and said, "Sir, I believe you have a valid cause of action." Translation, I think you can sue the other party, and I think you're going to win. Now, I can't guarantee the results because we're going to be in front of a judge and jury, but of course, I believe, based upon my experience, you will win this case, and the client, of course, was pleased to hear that. The attorney then went on to suggest, we do have to discuss our fee arrangement. And the client said, how will you charge me? And the attorney said, because this is a litigation, and it involves time in court, in front of a judge, in front of a jury, and there's no way of knowing how much or how little time I will be spending, the only fair way to bill you is on an hourly charge basis. I bill my time at $300 per hour in 1/10 of hour increments. I have an associate who bills at $200 per hour in 1/10 of hour increments, and a paralegal who bills at $100 an hour, again in 1/10 of hour increments. And the client said, that's fine with me. The attorney said, there's one other thing I should raise. Our firm has a custom that wherever we are retained for the first time ever by a client, we insist that there be an upfront retainer deposit of good faith. And the client said, how much do you want? And the attorney said, I think $1,000 would be appropriate. And with that, the client reaches into his right-hand pocket and takes out a brand new, crisp $1,000 bill, hands it to the attorney. The attorney folds the bill, puts it into his inside jacket pocket, and with that yellow legal pad makes out a receipt. Received this 6th day of July 2002, $1,000 from the client, signs his name, hands the yellow sheet of paper over to the client. Client shakes hands with the attorney, exits, and closes the door to the attorney's office behind him. Now, the attorney is sitting behind his desk reflecting upon what just happened, and like I'm sure everybody in this room, the attorney had never seen a $1,000 bill before in his life. So out of curiosity, he reaches into his inside jacket pocket to take out the bill to look at it more closely, and he notices the client had made a mistake. In the client's haste to hand over the $1,000 bill, and because the bill was so new and so crisp, the client hadn't noticed there was a second $1,000 bill stuck to the first one. Now, the question in legal ethics is, what was the ethical dilemma the attorney was facing? And the correct answer is, should he tell his partner? Please don't laugh too loud, because I'd like to think that some of you might like attorneys or have use for us. I'm not going to use the slide presentation, Cal, so you don't have to worry about that. What I'd like to do is talk about what the law was, how the law has changed, how it's affected you, and what everybody in this room, as long as you're mortal, should be doing. There are two concepts in federal estate taxation. Both of these concepts remain unchanged by the new law. The first concept is called the unlimited marital deferral. If Steve Shanker is legally...
Months after Monavie began, we started getting calls from women in the community who told Monavie that, if we wanted to work with women, we needed to deal with the issue of domestic violence because it was very prevalent in the community. Monavie quickly changed its goals and decided to focus on providing services to women who are experiencing domestic violence and to try to bring about social change to end violence against women. Today, I would like to talk to you all about understanding the problem of domestic violence in the community and also what we as a community can do to try to end violence against women. Let's see. I just want to start by reading you some statistics about violence against women in the United States, just so you can have a little bit of an understanding of the problem. Battery is the main cause of injury to women in the USA, more than auto accidents, rapes, and muggings combined. Annually, some 2,000 to 4,000 women are beaten to death by their partners in the USA. Every 15 seconds, a woman is beaten by her partner in the U.S. Sorry. Can I walk with this? Because I have to run. Hello? It's okay? Yes. All right, thank you. That's better, I think. No, the statistics I just read were for women in the U.S., not necessarily all South Asian. So I want to read to you some statistics that our organization has been collecting ourselves. Basically, it's very difficult to get a formal estimate of how many South Asian women are affected by domestic violence in the United States because the money to do research for South Asians is just not out there. And so a lot of the statistics are mainstream statistics for white American women. What Monavie has done since 1981 is to try to read the local newspapers and find out how many women are affected by domestic violence. Our rough tally of the situation is that from 1981 to August of 2000, 50 women, 11 men, and 11 children have been murdered in the South Asian community. 10 women and men and children there were attempted murders against them. 11 women and men committed suicide, and 3 men were killed by the police because of domestic violence incidents. Dr. Raj in Boston did a study completed in 2000. She interviewed 160 highly educated women. 35% of these South Asian women claimed that their current male partners had abused them at least once. 32.5% claimed that this abuse was in the past year. 19% claim their current male partner has sexually abused them. 15% claim this abuse was in the past year. So you see that the statistics in the South Asian community, even among highly educated women, is about 1/3, which is similar to women living in the United States as well as women living in India. I want to talk to you a little bit about how Manavi understands violence against women. We don't just work with survivors of domestic violence, but also women who are experiencing any forms of violence. What we understand as violence is any attitude.
Suppose there are
action,
two women, age 30 and age 60, the chances of cancer in the 60-year-old is more. Another one is a genetic. Certain genes are related to the cancer. Third thing is family history. If somebody's mother, sister, grandmother, Fai, Masi has cancer, those women has chances of getting cancer. But not always, Remember that, don't get scared. Okay. Then menarche, whose first period is before the age of 14 or 13 or 12, those women are at risk of getting cancer more than the one who get the first period after the age of 14. The same way menopause. If menopause is after the age of 50, their chances are higher than the one who gets menopause before the 50. The one who has a breast biopsy, those women are also, a little bit at higher risk, because the breast biopsy is usually there is something, then and then the person goes for the breast biopsy. If somebody has a cancer in one breast, that woman also has higher chances of getting cancer in another breast. The one who got the radiation in the past for the some other diseases on the neck or chest, those women also are at risk of getting cancer. Birth control pills. The one who is taking birth control pills are slightly at risk of getting cancer. Hormone replacement therapy for osteoporosis or for menopause, those women are also slightly at risk of getting cancer. Alcohol. The women who is drinking more than 2 to 3 drinks a day, they are definitely at high risk for the cancer. What? No, yeah, that is true. Okay, then my thought process went. Okay, lack of exercise is slightly decrease the risk of cancer, they said. Now, smoking, abortion, pesticide, deodorant, the people are thinking whether they are related to the cancer or not, but no, they are not causing the they are not at a high risk of getting cancer. Okay, can cancer be prevented? No, there is no way we can prevent the cancer. Only, if we follow the guidelines of Cancer Society, we can reduce the risk factors for getting cancer. The high-risk women, nowadays, they are who is really high risk patient, they have three things, genetic testing, tamoxifen, and prophylactic bilateral mastectomy, which is very, very rare, but now they are studying. And the genetic testing is very expensive. The insurance doesn't cover that one. And in case if it comes positive, then the life insurance is very hard to get. But it is not that common yet, these three things. Very important thing for all of us is we have to see how we can find the cancer at early age and treat the cancer at early age.
Your breasts become tender in alliance with your hormonal cycle. That's probably related to fibrocystic change. If you have diffuse tenderness of the breast, not localized like pain or swelling or nodular, you can prevent that. Studies have shown that vitamin E, decrease in caffeine intake, decrease in smoking actually prevents fibrocystic change. Exercise also. Mommy. No, I don't think that they suggest to remove them through benign, especially because unless they're large and they're... Well, there's an algorithm that your doctor will follow. If you notice anything unusual in your breasts, you should immediately see the physician. But if, depending on your age, depending on your risk factors, and depending on the quality of what they feel, they'll designate it low risk or high risk. And what they can do is they can do the screening ultrasound, they can do a fine needle aspiration, and if it, depending on the result, if it comes back as low risk, then they're not going to continually follow it. Because if you remove things surgically, then you can actually, what remains behind is scar tissue, and in the likelihood that you ever have something in the future, it's
disease in developed countries. Having said that, when I talk to my colleagues back home, and the data that I'm getting back, I think they're seeing more and more and more cases of ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, with the new techniques, scopes, and whatnot. I think we see more IBD back home, and I'm pretty sure when I go back this time, I'm going to be amazed as to how many more cases they're seeing now. What led to studying genetics in the last decade mainly relates to the fact that there's this well-known familial occurrence. When you diagnose a patient with UC or Crohn's in your practice, just take a moment and ask their first-degree relatives. The data is anywhere from 10 to 20% of patients with IBD, the proband, the patient himself, is a family history of one member in the immediate family in about 10 to 20% of the cases. However, the next most important thing that people realize is that the studies, the twins, between the monozygotic and the dizygotic, there's extremely high incidence of monozygotic twins with IBD, 27, 30% stuff. But it's not 100%. It's not one has to have, other has to have. What tells you the genetics is very complex. It's very heterogeneous. It's not a simple Mendel genotyping. And they identified a gene, which is called NOD on chromosome 16. They've also identified some additional genes on chromosomes 6, 12, and 16. These are genes which are basically expressing the regulation of the proteins that play an active role in inflammation. Close proximity to other inflammatory diseases, which could be Hashimoto's thyroiditis, coronary thyroiditis, diabetes, celiac disease, systemic lupus, and there appears to be very high incidence of an associated haplotype anomalies, which is particularly B27.
दिन दिन भर हो प्यार का असर, तू न पहचाने तो है ये तेरी नजरों का कसूर। ये मेरा दीवाना प्यार था, आज भी है और कल भी रहेगा।
गाए जा गीत मिलन के तू अपनी लगन से सजन घर जाना है। गाए जा गीत मिलन के तू अपनी लगन से सजन घर जाना है।
हाय रे हाय, नींद नहीं आए, चैन नहीं आए, दिल में तू समाई आया प्यार भरा मौसम दीवाना दीवाना।
हाँ हाँ वाली
નહીં તે તમે તમારા રિવીલ કરી દેશો બધા સોંગ્સ.
नखरे वाली नखरे वाली देखने में देख लो है कैसी भोली भाली। अजनबी ये छोरियाँ दिल पे डाले डोरियाँ, अजनबी ये छोरियाँ दिल पे डाले डोरियाँ, मन की काली वो तो कोई और थी जो आँखों से समा गई दिल में। माँ
गले से लगा ले के और मेरा कोई नहीं, फिर न सताऊंगा कभी पास बुला ले। गले से लगा ले के और मेरा कोई नहीं।
हम तुम्हारे हैं तुम्हारे सनम, हम तुम्हारे हैं तुम्हारे सनम, जाने मन मोहब्बत की है कसम की कसम, ना जुदा होंगे हम।
माँ
मिलते ही आंखें दिल हुआ दीवाना, किसी का अफसाना मेरा बन गए, अफसाना किसी का। पूछो ना मोहब्बत का सर, हाय ना पूछो, हाय ना पूछो।
અમારા કનેરિયાનો જોયો ને કમાલ, નાના મોટા બધાય ગાય છે.
छोटी सी छोकरी लाल बाई नाम है, पहने वो घाघरा एक पैसा दाम है। मुंह में सबके आग लगाए आता है रुलाना, इचक दाना बोलो क्या।
ना नाना
યાદ કરો જો લગન ગીત હું ગાય.
नाना करते प्यार तुम्ही से कर बैठे, नैना है जादू भरे हो गोरी तुझे, नैना है जादू भरे रे चलम करे हो न्योरी तुझे, नैना है जादू भरे।
रोते रोते हंसना सीखो, हंसते हंसते रोना, जितनी चाबी परी राम ने, अरे
ये चाहिए। नैना बरसे रिम जिम पिया तोरे आवन की आ नैना बरसे रिम जिम नैना बरसे बरसे बरसे
सावन का महीना पवन करे शोर जियारा रजू में ऐसे जैसे मनवा नाचे मोर।
तुमने ना जाना कि मैं दीवाना लेकर आया हूँ दिल का नजराना मेरे दिल की है जो दास्तां सुनो ना सुन लो ना हम सफर मुझी को चुन लो ना सुनो ना सुन लो ना तुमने ना जाना कि मैं दीवाना लेकर आया हूँ दिल का नजराना मेरे दिल की है जो दास्तां सुनो ना सुन लो ना हम सफर मुझी को चुन लो ना सुनो ना सुन लो ना जो गुमसुम हो तो मैं हैरान हूँ ये राज कैसे तुमको बताऊं तुम जो गुमसुम हो तो मैं हैरान हूँ ये राज कैसे तुमको बताऊं तुम पर मरता हूँ मैं सच कहता हूँ मांग के देख लो मुझसे जान सुनो ना सुन लो ना हम सफर मुझी को चुन लो ना सुनो ना सुन लो मैं भी हूँ तन्हा तुम भी तन्हा हो घर साथ हम हो तो सोचो क्या हो मैं भी हूँ तन्हा तुम भी तन्हा हो घर साथ हम हो तो सोचो क्या हो जो मंजिल दो दीवाने दिल ले चले प्यार का कारवां सुनो ना सुन लो ना हम सफर मुझी को चुन लो ना सुनो ना सुन लो ना कि मैं दीवाना लेकर आया हूँ